Hello, everyone. Give me 1 second. We're getting everything set up here. And if you jumped on in the first 10 seconds of this, I am super impressed. You were just waiting for me, which means you're psychic because I didn't even know exactly what I was going on today. So I love it. All right. My microphone works. There's a video. Now I want to make sure that I can see when everybody is on. Okay. We are live, but a little behind. So, all right. Well, let's, thank you. This is only my second live stream here on the platform so far. So it's still a bit of a work in progress. And I know that on a logistical and technical level, I will figure this out over the next few weeks and we'll get this to be a super smoothly running ship. That was a horrible sentence, and I apologize. But I'm excited to dive into this live stream today. We're going to talk for a little while about sales process. And specifically, and by the way, if you are just joining me, you've never seen my work before, you're not familiar with the work I do, a lot of the work I do focuses on a few specific groups. Salespeople, small business owners, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, people who have to sell and influence as part of their job. And really anybody else who understands the power of relationships, the power of not only knowing your craft or your skill, but also understanding the power of building relationships to get business done. So my name, if we have not met, is David Fisher. Everybody calls me D Fish. I played in a band for a long time. That's where I picked up that nickname. So if we ever meet in the offline world, feel free to call me D or D Fish or David. Just don't call me late for dinner. And that bad joke is about the level. So now you're seeing where my energy is as far as my jokes. We're good to go. But I wanted to open up a forum today to talk about sales process. And I'm also excited because, hey, if you have any questions as we're going through this live stream about sales processes, throw them up in the chat box. But I've been working with a number of clients over the past few weeks around their sales process. And it made me really realize that this is such an under-discussed topic. Whenever you are trying to influence other people, whenever you're trying to sell a product, a service, an idea, whatever it might be, too often we are winging it. We are just trying to make things up as we go along. And what's interesting is, I don't know if I even use the word interesting. What's sad is that doesn't work well. If you are trying to just make it up every single time, you're using a lot more energy. You are missing out on a lot of opportunities. You're missing out on the opportunity to grow the ability to sell beyond just you, and we'll talk about that in a few moments. But it's painful to watch, and so often we are going through our day. And so, for example, as a salesperson, we're having so many different conversations through the day about our product and our service, and we're having to reinvent the wheel every single time. So I want to talk about a couple different things that you can put into place in your business right now. So if you're in sales, if you're selling right now, you can re-examine your sales process. If you are, especially if you're running your own business, if you are a solopreneur, service provider, if you are an entrepreneur, you really need to examine what your sales process is, and it'll help you actually find more success. Now, let me define sales process for everybody today. Very simply, a sales process is a set process, a set structure to how you have conversations with prospects and customers through the entirety of your sales conversation. So if you think about it, and this is going to vary, of course, depending on the industry, depending on your field, but at some point you're going to start with somebody who's maybe a fresh prospect, somebody you've just met, and then you're going to walk them through various steps to help them understand what you do, for you to be able to uncover their challenges, their problems, and see where you might be able to fit in and solve them with your product or service, and then move all the way to a closing scenario. Closing, of course, just asking for the business. I call it, in hyper-connected selling, I call it asking for the next step, right? Asking to, whether that's to get another meeting, to bring another decision maker in, or to say, hey, it makes sense. Why don't we actually work together? So what ends up happening often is that with our sales process, because we don't actually look at this strategically, we're basically reinventing the wheel every single time. And what's ironic is that this is so rarely done in other industries, in other professions. So imagine this for a second. You're going to you're going to the doctor. Let's say you're going to go have a surgery, simple surgery, nothing life-changing. Maybe it's an orthopedic surgery. You're going to get your knee fixed. All right. You blew it out playing basketball when you're younger, and it's never been quite right. Now it's just starting to really hurt. And you go in, the doctor's like, hey, why don't we, do some surgery. We'll fix things up. You'll be better for the next 20 years. Fantastic. You don't want to go in and talk to the surgeon, and he'll be like, every day I just walk in with a new patient, and we knock them out, and I just pull out my scalpel, and we see what happens, right? Maybe some days I'm going to cut from the left, some days I'll cut from the right, some days I'll go fast, some days I'll go. No, you want that surgeon to be like, hey, I've done this a bunch of times. I do the same thing every single time because it works, and that's what I'm going to do. That's a surgeon you want. So why do we think from a influence or a sales perspective that we can just make stuff up and have success in doing it? It doesn't work. So the first thing I'm going to suggest to you is to, look at yourself in the mirror and go, do I have a sales process? Do I say the same things every time when I'm trying to sell, when I'm trying to influence, when I'm trying to get business? Now, does that mean that you have to have a scripted, robotic, I just go A, B, C, D? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. One of the things that I often suggest to clients is the idea of having nuggets. And for me, a nugget could be a sentence. It could be a paragraph. It could be a specific question. But it's certain things that you say the same every single time you are meeting with somebody and you're having a conversation at that certain point. So let's say that we're looking at the discovery part of your sales engagement. So they're a prospect, you've got some interest, you're going to dive in, you're going to talk to them a little bit. Before you dive in to telling them about your product or service, or this is what you should be doing before you dive into your product or service, you have a couple questions. And you might want to frame it in a very specific way every single time. Hey, Jan, I noticed with some other clients that we work with, one of the biggest challenges they run into is sharing the information that this dashboard has across different departments, right? So even if they have the information about how well their marketing is doing, it's hard to get the sales team to understand what's happening. It's hard to get operations. It's hard to get accounts payable. And so that's something that, I've found has been a challenge. What kind of challenges do you have in sharing information throughout the organization? Now, I'm just riffing on something there. But if that would be the question, ask that question every single time. Because one, you'll make sure to ask it, right? You won't forget it. And two, when you say the same thing, you know it works, but you also are able to have a lot more confidence. You're able to engage a lot more, and that's really, really important. Um, to give you an example, I started my career selling Cutco knives. Great knives. Big fan of them. I think my contract's still valid. So if you need some Cutco knives, let me know. But I mean, I've had my set for 20 years. Love them. But I got my start selling in college, and I remember there was this one point in every sales presentation where I would close my prospectus and I'd look at the customer and say, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, isn't it great to have a product that has a guarantee like Cutco's, because it had an amazing guarantee?" And I would say, "Can you think of any other product that you use 2 or 3 times a day, every day, for the rest of your life? It won't break. It won't go out of style. I mean, and if it does break, it'll get replaced at no charge. I mean, that's pretty awesome. Can you think of any other product like that?" And a lot of times they would say, "No." And then I've made my point. I move on. But what I'm trying to emphasize here is I haven't done a presentation, I think, since 1999. All right. But I still remember it because it was the same every time. And what having a sales process does, it really creates I'll try that again. 3 things. It creates scalability, replication, and the ability to fix and really fine tune the presentation. So for example, so let's go through these. First of all, it's repeatable. So you can do it over and over and over again. A lot of times I think when we're selling, we're hesitant to reach out. We're hesitant to have that conversation because we don't know what to say, whether that's we're prospecting or we're making that initial call, whether that is diving in and having the closing question, whether that's trying to get some more information or get some specific stakeholders engaged. If we don't know what to say, it's a little daunting, and so it's very easy to procrastinate and push it off. So when we have something that's repeatable, we don't have to put all our energy into going, "What am I going to say?" Instead, we put our energy into doing that outreach. The second thing is scalability. You can just do it more. And this is especially important for those of you who are entrepreneurs, who are small business owners, who might want to have a salesperson or might want to grow your business to the point where you have a salesperson. If you're just winging it and working through your personality and charisma right now, you're going to struggle. But if you've got a repeatable system, that means it can be scaled. You can tell somebody else, "Here's what to say. Here's the conversations to have." Oh, then they can pick that up and run with it, as opposed to them trying to reinvent the wheel again. Super, super powerful. And the third thing is, again, that you can fix it. So this is something that I do a lot. And this is probably more, I would say, like when I'm working one-on-one with salespeople and business owners, because they'll come and they'll say, "Well, here are my results." They'll say, we close 20% of the business that we get. And they're like, "Well, and I want to sell more." And you go, "Well, okay, well, what do you need to fix?" If they're just making it up every single time, they don't know. But if they know, hey, there's step 1, then step 2, step 3, step 4, right? And here's what I say at each of these. You can actually then dive in and go, "Hey, tell me about the question you have right here. Tell me about how you say this. If you say this every time, what is the result you get?" And that allows you, just like a mechanic. Mechanics work on car engines because the same car engine works the same way, or at least it does, like in the same make and model. So they know that, hey, if there's too many chemicals in the exhaust and you're not passing emissions, well, hey, I need to go look at the catalytic converter, or this piece in it. And again, if you're just making it up every day, you can't do that. So that's also what allows us to, again, create that fixability. Super important. Now, how do you do? So that's why you should have a sales process. And I've kind of been beating that into you, because a lot of us, we don't take the time. We don't take the 30 minutes a day. I mean, you can get a good sales process this week if you devote a couple hours to it. But even 20 or 30 minutes a day over the next couple of weeks, you're going to have a good sales process. It's more important to do that sometimes than call and talk to some new prospects if your process is a mess, right? And what the process is then becomes the next question. Well, what is the way that I should structure my sales conversations? Gosh, there's so many different options out there. And here's let me pull back the curtains, or let you see behind the scenes. Most good sales programs are at their heart pretty similar. We're not reinventing the wheel. I actually suggest, if you really want to do this well, the first level is to find a sales program. So go get a book, go get spin selling, go get Challenger Sale, look at the Sandler method. If you're in financial services, my friend Joey Davenport over at Hooper's Performance Network, they have Trustworthy Selling, which is a great system. If you're in B2B sales, my friend Andy Paul has the Sales House. Those are just the ones that popping off the top of my head right now. Those guys are great, and there's no kickback or anything. I just think they got great stuff. I think my stuff is pretty good too, but very specifically in those industries, check them out. Pick one and start using it. Like, too often we think we have to wait till we have the perfect one, and then just start somewhere. So that's the first step. Now, if you want to be advanced, if you really want to get good at this, get 3. Find 3 of the ones I just mentioned, or go get some other sales books. Again, there are so many out there. They're all essentially the same. They just have different flavors, and they do have different levels of emphasis. The reason why I say 3 is I think that when you have 3 models of anything, you can then actually take a step back and integrate those 3 into something that works well and works well for you. You'll see the connections. You'll see the things that you're like, I respond well to that, or heck, I would never say that. And you can craft a process that really works well for you. So that's the best way I've found to actually craft your own sales process. If you want to just import something wholesale from one of those, fantastic. But just have something. When I talk to a salesperson, when I talk to this happens especially a lot. I said it kind of with business owners and solopreneurs, people that sales is just a little bit of their daily life. But I go, well, how are you selling? And they're just like, I don't know. I just show up and I have a conversation. Or a salesperson who's like, well, I just keep calling prospects and say kind of whatever comes to mind. I've got these couple of jokes I might use, or I've got this one demo deck that I'll send if they're kind of interested, and then be like, hey, you have any questions? That's a mess, right? And it's very vague, it's very haphazard, and you're getting vague and haphazard results. So these are some simple ways that you can actually not only put that sales process in place, but then have better conversations, because all of this really is focused on having better human-to-human conversations with your prospects and prospective clients and clients. All of this is not about becoming a robot. I think it's really about becoming a better salesperson, a better influencer. To go back to that doctor analogy, when a doctor really knows what they're doing, so that surgeon who's working on your knee, when they know everything cold about how to go in and do that procedure, they're going to do a much better job. They're much more focused. And then they can respond if something strange happens, or if they're like, oh, I didn't expect to find that there. I'm going to call an audible and do something a little different. Or, hey, we have to take out more cartilage or reattach that ligament. I am obviously not a doctor. I don't know. But so my metaphor is falling apart. But think about that when you are trying to have better, more effective conversations with your prospects and with your customers. So with that, if you have any questions after this video, I know will get posted up on LinkedIn, posted up on YouTube. So if you have questions after, you can definitely, or if you're watching this afterwards, definitely ping me, throw up a comment, throw up a question down below. I'm going to continue to do these live videos. This is brand new, so I'm pretty excited. We're probably going to play around with time and day and figure out when's a good time for everybody to jump on. And also, we've got a 3-week-old here, so I've got to figure out when I can fit into like nap times and stuff like that. And if sales and getting better at the human-to-human sales process is something you're interested in, one thing I would definitely encourage you, if you are a small business owner or a solopreneur, a service provider, financial planner, a attorney, a lawyer, and you want to get better at these, definitely check out the D-Fish Inner Circle, which is a sales and networking coaching group specifically for that. It's super affordable. It's super accessible. We have a great group of people. We have a couple coaching calls every month. I talk about topics like this, but obviously I dive super into them. Would love to have you. It's $49 a month, so it's inexpensive. You can actually start your first month right now for only $9. You can go to beasalessherpa.com to find out more information about that. And if you are just looking for one-on-one coaching, if you'd like me to come in and talk to your sales teams, for example, or anything like that, definitely reach out, or even just, hey, reach out on LinkedIn, connect with me. Would love to start the conversation. And there's gonna be lots more good stuff coming. But I think with that, I'm gonna wrap things up for today. I wish you a fantastic week. And we're halfway through the week. It's hump day. So hopefully you're off to a great start. We've got a couple of days left where you can do good work. And as I always say, go out and have a rock star day. Bye.